Guys, how you doing? Welcome to my new video tutorial. I finished the last video tutorial talking about installation of Windows 10. Now we're going to review the Windows 10 technical preview that I installed in the previous video. Alright, of course this test has to consider that I run it on a virtual machine, but anyway, of course, it'll be more demanding in terms of hardware than the previous Windows version, it goes without saying. So far, you can tell it's very slow, but okay, thank you. This is the page where you can download the technical preview, which I did, and that pretty much sends you back to the technical presentation. If you had the chance to look at just about 39 minutes of it, and you're a computer addict like me, just do it. But otherwise, I can pretty much wrap it up saying that it's pretty much the old stuff that Windows brought back for you, trying to merge pretty much the come on. I've been using Start probably since 20 years so far. Okay. You can see there's a sort of fusion between the old style Start menu and the infamous tile interface, which I really warmly hate, but anyway, it can be useful to somebody. What they said in the presentation was, for example, that you could add stuff here, and we can tell that it's more user-friendly. I mean, it's easier to handle with a mouse and a keyboard, which is what I was saying in my previous post and what I've been saying since they come out with Windows 8 and then Windows 8.1. Anyway, all apps. What we have here, not much. So practically what we got here, guys. In the technical presentation, I will embed a link to it in case you missed it a couple of days ago. They did nothing by it but addressing Windows 7 users because they realized, as I've been saying for 2 years, that they messed up with their core users, which are mostly corporate, because uh, when you're used to something like the start menu or the start button, you take it off out of the blue, I mean, people get mad. And especially on a corporate environment, they don't give a damn about fancy functionalities like this or like social media, except for corporate purposes. What they care for is having a operating system that's reliable and functional. And honestly, I can't say this was the case for Windows 8. Anyway, uh, so they pretty much merged the old style start menu, which we're really familiar with. This is pretty much Windows 7, and they put the macro interface, so hated by several people here. I don't understand why not taking it off for good, honestly. But uh, in my opinion, this is a hybrid solution that goes nowhere because it doesn't satisfy users, but it does satisfy either mm, mobile users. So here in the taskbar you can see the pinned apps, and in the new start menu you can now, well, it was the same in Windows 8, pretty much customize them like resides. We can make it smaller or bigger, like this. In this case I don't like it so big, for example, so that looks a little better. But that's not life changing. It's something that was already present in Windows 8 and 8.1, but it's good to know. A new feature added, most familiar to Windows 8 users and not present in Windows 7, is the integration of the search functionality with internet. So you can have results both from your computer or local storage devices and from the internet. Example, if I search for Explorer here in search, I'm gonna have a series of suggestions from my local computer and from the internet here. And this is something new for Windows 7 users, but not for Windows 8. Anyway, the best innovation, restoration, we could say, introduced by Windows 10 is the presence of the familiar close, minimize, and restore buttons that were lacking in the previous versions. And honestly, I think this is really beneficial because closing an application with the keyboard and mouse version of Windows 8 was a real pain in the neck. So this is pretty much something they had to do, and they did it right in this case.
Even on different devices.
Okay, meanwhile, I installed Microsoft Office. Thanks to my college, I can have it free of charge, which is pretty nice. One of the most interesting new functionalities introduced by Windows 10 is the presence of this button, currently called Task View, that allows, once you click it, to have an overview of all the open applications and to quickly switch between each one of them, and possibly to create a new desktop. You can see here. This is something new for Windows, but not very innovative, as I can do the same for my iMac, and in Mac OS has been introduced years ago. In fact, in my Mac OS I have the same functionality here called Mission Control, which is much better, but this is something helpful anyways, which I can warmly recommend to use, and is good for your productivity. So in this case I can say good job. Along with the task view, there's another functionality. You notice here that along with the overview of all the open windows, there's a send to one note, which allows to capture each one of those windows really with one click, and this is really helpful. Okay, this is the new functionality called Snap Assist. As you can see, when I snapped the PowerPoint sideways, I have the choice of grabbing one of those other windows. Now you can see that they pretty much are tiled together. I gotta say I'm not particularly impressed by this functionality, but it can come in handy in case of multiple desktops. One improvement concerns the command prompt, and especially the possibility of using keyboard shortcuts to copy and paste in command prompt. For example, if I write down a command here and I want to paste it in command prompt the way we usually do with other applications like text editors or web browsers, we can use Control V, in my case Command V, to paste the command here, and it works. This is not life-changing because you could do the same thing. Okay. Right-clicking and choosing paste, or dragging a file or folder in the command prompt window. So it's surely useful, but I don't think it's life-changing functionality. Of course, this new functionality allows me also to copy and paste the output of a command from command prompt into text editor with keyboard shortcuts. For example, if I want to grab the input of this command here and I select all the contents of the C directory, I can copy that with Command C. Because I'm on a Mac, it should be Control C, and paste it here. I can tell that this is really helpful functionality that can seriously increase productivity. Not a life-changing option, but it can be useful for programming purposes. The reason why I say it's not a life-changing functionality is that you could copy the output of a command already in a text file in command prompt using a particular format. For example, I can grab the output of command in another way that gives me the same result, but with one more passage. Well, I mean, if I want to grab, for example, the content of the directory C on my hard drive, I can give this command and then add this line here. This creates a text file that will store the output of the command. There you go. For this I need an elevated command prompt because I need administrative rights on the machine. Once we've done this, we can check our text file. If we now check our text file we just created in the command prompt by entering that command, we'll see it reports the contents of the C directory in a text file. This is pretty much the same as we did before, but I can give Microsoft that the way they implemented the same result is much more immediate and easier for the average user than this. But we can say that's life-changing functionality in this case as well. A last thing I want to explain to you here is how Microsoft wants to implement a sort of two-in-one GUI, graphic interface, having the same interface which changes depending on the kind of device that's being utilized. I mean, depending on if we have a keyboard and a mouse or a touch device. But as I don't own at the moment a touch device, I better let Belfiore talk about it, because you'll understand immediately what I'm talking about.
You think about the whole broad spectrum of what I've tried to characterize as what we're doing here in the core UI is to solve for a massive scale of users of different capabilities on a really wide range of device hardware. Some of them only have mouse and keyboards with no touch, some of them have touch, and we definitely see people moving towards touch. And the category of devices that we feel very enthusiastic about, both through our own experience and through working with our hardware partners and talking to our enterprise customers, is the effect that two-in-ones can have for the productivity of people using Windows to get things done. And when we change the UI, if you go back and look at Windows 8, Windows 8's focus on touch, the large start screen, the notion of apps running full as they do on tablet devices, that was trying to salute the idea that people would be productive on these touch devices, but we didn't quite get it right. With Windows 10, we think we have a better approach. So I'm going to show you a design motion study that we're working on. The code's coming along, but it's not ready to try yet. We call this Continuum. And the idea is for two-in-one devices, can we build a UI that smartly changes its mode based on whether you have a keyboard and mouse present or absent, to just adjust the UI in a way that'll feel really familiar so a device is great at doing both. So let's run the video and you'll get a sense of what I mean by this. So here we have a device that's convertible, and normally it's used like a laptop. So here I've got a mouse pointer, I'm using the mouse, I click Start, I get a Start menu, I launch Mail, here's a Universal Outlook, it runs in a window, just as I've been showing you already. Now when I remove the keyboard and mouse, it prompts, should I enter the tablet mode? And when you say yes, the app is maximized, the taskbar adds a back button for switching, and when you touch Start with your finger, it switches itself into the large Start mode so that it's really easy for you to pick other apps and navigate around and launch them. So here we launched OneNote. OneNote it knows that it's in the touch mode, so the UI adjusts. I say New Page, and I can do something like use the pen to ink right in my OneNote. If I want to switch apps, I can go back to Start, or I can use the familiar taskbar that I've known for years, and I have a simple, convenient way to do this. When I bring the keyboard and mouse back, I'm prompted again to exit tablet mode, and when I do, the Start menu comes back to its small mode where I last left it, and the apps that I ran are still present on the device in their windowed mode because now I'm using it like a laptop. When we've shown this to people, we've shown this to a lot of partners, enterprises, OEMs, people say, yeah, that feels right. And we're now at the point where we're getting to our software development to where we can really be testing it out and making adjustments to how it works. Mostly gets used like a laptop. I want you to think about the Surface Pro, the Lenovo Yoga, the HP Spectre. These are all devices that are convertible. And so you use them like a laptop a lot of the time, but based on how the device works, we'll have an event in the system that can prompt the user to go into a different mode. And a user might say no, and they could configure this not to ask, but we think it'll be the most convenient thing. We think a user could configure it to do it automatically without asking. And what you get is a device that really operates with the simplicity of a tablet, making things larger and working well for touch, but when the mouse and keyboard come back, it morphs itself to the familiar PC experience that hundreds of millions of people use and works in a really nice, natural way. I think those were all the main points I wanted to make again.
So the bottom line of all this is that Microsoft finally understood, as I've been saying for a couple of years, that not anybody has touchscreen or wants to buy a touchscreen device, and that their weapon, Windows 8, doesn't work at all with the keyboard and a mouse. They finally understood this, and it seems to me that this solution could be beneficial, even though I go on saying that goes nowhere, meaning that doesn't satisfy neither the traditional users used to Windows 7 interface, nor users accustomed to the new GUI. Anyway, I can understand why Microsoft can't completely dismiss Windows 8, because it's just about like recognizing a total failure, which they can do. So that's pretty much all, folks. That's all I have to say about Windows 10, and I would like to end the video here. We could wrap up the thing saying that Windows 10 is pretty much a half step forward, because it remains a certain ambiguity between the old-styled Windows interface and the newer one that was more familiar to the Windows 8 users. Anyway, this is still a work in progress, so we'll see what the release candidate will look like. And this is pretty much about it. So keep following me and have a good one.